Hi there everyone, Scapegoat Stephen back with another video battle report. This time we are actually trying out the Union's new captain, Veteran Captain Greede, and we're playing into Butchers. This is the first of two pickup games that I recorded at Club Night. This is Veteran Greede on the receive, not his optimal sort of idea of where he wants to play, but it is something that I wanted to test, and I did want to play Vet Greede just for a little bit, just to get some videos out and to actually get an idea as to what he is capable of. So this is going to be Veteran Greede on the receive versus Ox Butchers. So on the Butchers side, on the left, so Butchers are kicking. I won the roll, but again, as I said in the intro, chose to receive just to see what it was going to be like for Greede. So you've got Veteran Gutter, Princess, Captain Ox, Boiler, Brisket who's kicking, and Shank at the bottom. And on the other side you've got Decimate, Grace, Veteran Captain Greede, Original Rage, and Minx. So there's a bit of a short kick there, just so you get a better control of the scatter. The original scatter was like 5 to the 6 or 6 to the 5. It was really bad for my opponent. So he re-rolled it and got like distance 1 direction 2, which is obviously quite close to his team, which is probably where he wants to be and not really where I want to be. So Veteran Greede, obviously with the 5 models, makes it more difficult on the receive, or the internet wisdom at the moment is it makes it more difficult on the receive because it's more difficult to spread out. That said, Union have got a couple of fast models, and in fact I put 3 reasonably faster models in this list. Now I think again, like, the conventional wisdom is that the Decimate isn't in this list, it's actually Fangtooth. That's like, I think, a couple of people's hot takes over what first team to try Greede with, but I was going with this team because I wanted to be fast, to be able to collect the ball, and I really like Decimate into Butchers. Again, that momentous 2-on-2 and the ability to take 4 influence is in my opinion quite strong. So Decimate second wins herself, sprints to snap the ball, and then second wins a dodge back to pretty much almost her starting position and still holds the ball. Ox jogs forwards just to extend his aura threat on his +1 damage aura within 6 inches, so it allows his models again to project that a little bit further forward from where he is. Obviously being a 3-2 in cover as well, most of my Union models don't want anything to do with that kind of stat line. Grace is going to use Impart Faith and Talisman to put a quick foot on Minx through Rage, then she's going to spend 2 to put quick foot on Rage himself, and then she's just going to stay where she is. Princess is going to jog, again a bit of a stalling action by my opponent to see what I do. In the end I decide that next I'm probably have to go with Greede, so he puts forward minions up, so it hits every one of my team, they'll get +2/+2 move. Uses the character play to push Rage 2 inches and push Minx 2 inches just to give them a bit of extra threat, and then jogs into cover. So Brisket is going to throw Dirty Knives at Greede, and unfortunately for my opponent rolls a double 1, so he doesn't get that off to lower Veteran Greede's defence. Again, as should be said, he is a 3-2 and he is in cover, so he's okay, and on defensive stance going up to the 4-2 in cover can be quite strong. So Brisket's then just going to jog and punch Greede. She just gets a single hit, net hit at the end of it, so she calls 1 damage, which goes up to 2 because of the Veteran Ox aura. I jog Decimate in to force a unpredictable movement, so that I can then not worry about it later in the turn, and then use that influence. I then still have my model to pass to Grace. I was going to second wind, forgot about it, and then had flipped the clock by the time I'd actually realised I was going to do it, so I obviously chose not to do it because I can't, so I already flipped the clock. It's not too bad a thing at this point because Gutter can't quite reach me. So Gutter will jog, and then she'll route 1 to Decimate but stop at the edge of her 2-inch melee. So just to set up, I think, a gang up, give my opponent some more options. So I deliberate what I want to do with Rage here, sort of measuring out a couple of threat ranges of my different models, trying to decide what do I do, what don't I do. You know, just to see, what are my options here? Can I reach with, Rage charging or jogging with Minx, or what are my options? Minx jogs pretty far now because you've got to believe an 11-inch jog with a 1-inch melee. She's got a 12-inch jog threat. Obviously, jogging is potentially better at this stage, especially when she's only got 3 influence on her, because it just means she's going to hit the top end of her playbook if she charges against what the Butcher stat lines are. And actually, if she can get in, make multiple attacks and set someone up for a takeout either the following turn or next turn, that's better. So Rage is going to put Tooled Up on Minx using his Heroic, which is my last point of momentum. He's then going to jog to engage Brisket base to base and buys an attack. Unfortunately, I don't get any successes, and my opponent has declared a counterattack and scores a double dodge off the counterattack and backs away. So it's a little bit of a shame, so I'd hope to get a bit of damage with Rage and then a knockdown, just to basically probably try and kill Brisket with Minx. So my opponent then deliberates over who to activate next and in the end goes with Boiler. So I think the idea here was, if he goes into, can he kill Rage this turn, or does he want to set Rage up for a kill next turn? Which again, you've got to be a little bit careful with, because Boiler bleeds people and does a truck of damage. So Boiler's has to sprint because he's going around a curve to engage Rage. Smacks him for a momentous 3 to open, which goes up to 4 because of Ox's Aura. A non-momentous 1 that goes up to 2. Second roll was a bit bad. And then finally a momentous 3 up to 4. So Rage is bleeding, and he's taken what at this stage? 8, 9, 10 damage. And prime for bleeding. I think he's got 16 health total. So actually, he's ready to just die. I'm just going to go jog Minx base to base with Boiler, because that's how far she goes. And he does declare a counter attack, should be said. I hit him for a 1 damage up to 2 because of Tooled Up, and snared, and obviously the dodge. Although I choose to stay where I am. Boiler manages to get the push dodge, unfortunately, on the next attack, pushing me away from him and him away from me, so we are disengaged, so I can't buy 2 more attacks into Boiler. So I just throw an axe at Ox for a casual 4 damage, and snare him as well, putting Ox down to a 2-2, which is quite important when fighting, because again, his stat line 3-2 in cover against this team isn't the greatest. It's not the same level of attack stacking you can get as with Veteran Rage, which can overcome some of that. So my opponent spends a little while trying to deliberate what to do with Shank. Now he's probably going to win the momentum race. He's on 1, I'm on 1, and he's got a Shank with 3 or 4 influence left to go, so he can easily get in. Potentially, does he kill Rage? Does he go in on Minx? Does he go in on, probably not on Greed? Again, that 3-2 defensive stat line in cover. He's got 20 HP, which is it's all right for a captain with that stat line. So he's going to where they go, and then he's going to jog to engage Rage. So it leaves him with 3 influence left. So he makes a momentous 2, goes up to 3 because that Ox Aura, single dodge, and then uses that, I believe, to engage Greed? Question mark. Yes, he does in fact, because then he attacks Greed, who does declare a counter attack. So I kind of want to force him to either back away from me or take an undesirable choice. He does a momentous 1, goes up to 2 damage, single dodge, dodges out of Greed's melee, staying engaged with Rage, buys another attack, scores a momentous 3 up to 4, chooses the takeout, because actually if he takes him out now he gets the momentum, whereas actually if he leaves Rage to die from conditions, he doesn't get the momentum point. So going into the start of turn 2, I have 0 momentum because I spent it for the counter attack, seeing that my opponent was going to smash much higher than me, and the Butchers have 5 momentum, and it is 2-0 in their favour. And as you can see, there's a bit of a scrum forming now, and this is probably not where I want to be. If anyone's played against Ox before, they'll know that actually he makes us damaging scrum with Butchers pretty horrific. So I'm going to play Never Say Die. So actually, if my opponent takes out any of my models, I get 2 momentum, because I feel that I'm probably going to lose a couple here. He plays Hit 'em Where It Hurts, which means he puts -1 armour on one of my models. So for him, it's trying to figure out, well, actually, who's the biggest threat right now? You've got Decimate and Minx and Greed all right there. Obviously, you can't put Hit 'em Where It Hurts on Greed, so he chooses Minx. Probably the right option, if I'm honest, because Minx is absolutely killer in this edition. Since the 4.2 errata, she's really strong. It's difficult to say actually if she, I've been playing Union a lot since sort of last July, and the current iteration of Minx is really strong right now. The fact that she does so much on just 1 or 2 hits in a guild that has access to potentially +2 damage buffs. Granted, they require previous activations by other models. +1 damage buff on Minx specifically because of Tooled Up or Veteran Rage can't. Obviously, they're both on 2 rages. But Minx, very strong. So Shank decides he doesn't like this and he's going to go engage Minx. So he is still within the Ox Aura, which we did check and measure. So he hits Minx from a momentous 2 up to 3. Bear in mind she's just a 4-0 right now, and Shank does roll 6 dice. His second attack does a momentous 2 up to 3 again because of that Ox Aura. Third attack, momentous 2 up to 3. Final attack, my opponent does bonus time it and scores a momentous 2 up to 3. Leaves Minx on 2 health. So actually, if you'd got 2 more damage at any point during that, Minx would have been dead. So at this stage, I've got to activate Minx. You know, if I don't activate Minx now, she dies horribly to whoever it is who goes in next, or just a casual couple of attacks from Boiler, or 1 attack from Boiler, and then he loads everything else into Veteran Greede. So Minx is going to spend my only point of momentum to heal herself for 4. So it takes her back up to 6. And then she is going to go give Shank a good shanking. So she's going to jog base to base with him and hit him, which is going to do a momentous 2 damage, single dodge, not that I take the single dodge here, and snared, knowing that he's got that counter attack coming in. He does again 2 damage up to 3, so again, wise choice to heal before I went in. And he does dodge, but obviously he's only going to go an inch away with his playbook results. I'm then going to attack him again. He's obviously now defense 3. I am equivalent tax 6 because of the shelling out aura from Greede, and I get the top end damage. I get the momentous 4 double dodge, and then I hit him again for the third time, a momentous 3 single dodge. So I back off an inch, so I'm at the edge of, so basically I'm at 2 inches away from him, and then back to the shadows 4 inches away to hopefully keep me out of range of dying to anyone. My opponent then goes to try and set up Greede for death at Boiler's hands, I assume. Brisket jogs and throws a dirty knives into Greede, doing 1 damage up to 2 because of the Ox Aura and poison. She then heals Shank because I think my opponent is worried that I'm going to go into Shank and cause him some trouble. I do deliberate here about what to do and who to go with. Boiler is a 3-1 currently because he is snared and he's out of cover. My opponent has no momentum, so he can't defensive stance or counter attack. I've got 2-inch melee anyway. The right choice here is he's got the most influence on him in a position I can easily get to, so he needs to die. Because if he goes into any of my other players, he's going to cause me some serious issues. So Greede going to put up forward minions, which hits everyone except Rage. He is then going to heal Minx for 2, which I can't remember what that puts back up to about 7-ish. And then he's going to charge Boiler and declare a bonus time on the charge. Now, he's got the Lance rule and a bonus damage on charge attacks. He's also not crowded out, as you might have seen from that proxy-based measurement, that he is just straight rolling all of his own dice. So I do score a non-momentous 4 up to 5, and I wrap to the momentous 3, which goes up to 4. Again, both of those because of the Lance rule, which does 9 damage. And I've got 2 more attacks to do 3 damage to him. So I hit him again for a momentous 2, and then hit him again for another momentous 2, and I nab the takeout, which removes Boiler from the pitch. Now, that takes us to 2-2. Obviously, I generated, 5 momentum off that. So I heal myself, as I've taken a little bit of damage so far, so I might as well. And seeing that my opponent only has Gutter and Ox left to go with any influence, he's not going to be scoring a huge amount of momentum himself now. So Gutter's going to dodge and attack Greede. I do declare a counter attack. His attack is a double push, which I didn't expect actually, and he pulls me into being ganged up on by basically everyone but Princess. So Greede is not in the best place, seeing that he's just about to have Ox come in. But I do get the counter attack. Admittedly, it's on 4 dice, but I do manage to get a push and push Gutter out of engaging me. So actually, at the moment, there's only 2 models engaging me. Not that Ox needs 2, but obviously, the more he gets, the more chances he is to wrap and chew through my 20 health. So Decimate's looking at Shank and going, you haven't got a lot of health, and I don't like the fact you're going to give a gang up. So I'm going to go jog base to base with you and smack him. So it does a non-momentous 1,000 cuts on the first hit. Now, combine that with the snared, basically puts him at defense 1. So it means I'm going to be rolling 6 attack normally, another one for defense 1, another one for engaged by Greede, and another one from the shelling out aura. So I'm actually going to be rolling 7 dice on my follow-up 2 attacks. So I'm going to do a momentous 2 rapping to the momentous 2 on the first attack, and then my third and final attack, I bonus time, get a momentous 2 and rap to the momentous 2, which takes out Shank. So that puts it to 2-4 in favour of the Union. Decimate then heals Greede. So at the moment, if Ox came in now, he'd only have 1 gang up, and he'd be going into a 20 HP Greede, and I believe Ox only has 2 or 3 influence at this stage. So Princess is just going to go jog. We might as well add an extra gang up to that little party going on in the middle, just to help Ox a little bit. Hope potentially get some rapping. Rage is just going to jog. I probably should have just declared a charge against Brisket at this stage and got the extra movement up the pitch. I'm not really sure why I didn't do that, but you know, I'm looking that actually he could potentially, if he took the second activation, charge into Princess. You know, I've got there's the proxy base. There's just about an inch there between me and Princess. Yeah, it gives me some options. So Ox is jogging in to Greede. He's going to attack Greede. I choose not to counter-attack. 1, to save my momentum, and 2, because actually I think it's quite easy for him to get his knockdown. He scores a momentous 3 up to 4, followed by a non-momentous 3 up to 4, and butchery, followed by a momentous 2 up to 4 because of the butchery and the aura stacking. So he's done a good 12 of my 20 health in 3 swings there with Ox. So he's set me up for an easy takeout next turn. So at this stage, my opponent has 2 or 3 momentum. He's only got 2. Sorry, and I do have 5 or 6. Sorry, to put my own hand in the way. 6. There we go. And so I'm going to win the momentum race this turn. I'd also like to point out my cards. One of the I think I mentioned this last video. I very rarely had trouble with the old cards and getting just a hand of terrible low cards. This game, I think I had 1-5, and everything else was a 3 or 4 or less. So I was a little bit worried, which is why I'm stacking in my momentum quite high, because I need it at this stage. So I am looking at, if I do a 2 activation go with Grace, because I have now the remaining activations of this turn, sorry. Can I score a goal? The answer is yes, quite easy. You know, she's got the extra 2 move from forward minions on her, so she's going to jog that ridiculous amount of inches there, 8 I believe, and she's going to healing light using talisman onto Greede just to heal him by 3. Just that gets him up to 11, which I know is perfectly killable for butchers, but you might as well, you know, cause him some issues. Second activation is going to sprint all the way. As you can see, I'm just completely skirting Gutter's melee range because I don't need to go through it because I'm that fast. So I'm going to sprint 10 inches, and I'm going to shoot with a bonus time on the goal, and I'm going to score it. So it's going to go in, and it's going to be 2-8 now in favour of the Union. I'm then going to dodge to engage Ox with Grace, just to get another gang up for next turn. You know, potentially I could get Minx in there, or you could be looking at getting Decimate in there, and a couple of gang ups and a shelling out aura in that sort of kind of scenario. It's pretty good. However, look at the ball scatters. It is right behind Princess, just in front of Grace. So I windmill slam down the highest card I have in my hand, which is a 5, which takes me to 9. So actually, if my opponent had a 7, we would have been rolling off. He chose Raw Enthusiasm. He realised afterwards, actually, he had the Goal Defence card in his hand, which he probably should have played. But I win initiative either way. So I don't think he even chooses someone to put Raw Enthusiasm on. I think we get a bit caught up with the fact that the game's probably about to end. So I obviously Mudslide as well, I think gives you +1 influence, which was always useful, in addition to the fact that I just got +1 from scoring a goal. Although I could be wrong, because I think I can only see myself putting out 1 goal influence this turn. I usually use the goal influence as the spare ones. So I'm looking at it going, I need 4 points. Might as well try and finish it with Grace. You know, not finishing it with Grace would probably be a poor choice here, like just trying to kill someone. And there is a gap between Shank and Boiler, so he's put Shank and Boiler near his goal to attempt to stop, you know, to cause me to shoot over a model. But there is we measure it in a minute, but there is a perfect line straight between the two of them that the ball path will go on. So Grace will jog to the edge of Ox's melee. A little bit silly, I probably should have just dodged her to there when I dodged after scoring the goal to save me my movement. And then she is going to make an attack on Ox, who is going to declare a counter-attack. I score a momentous dodge, which takes me out of his melee, but I'm still engaging Princess. So I hit Princess, score a momentous dodge again. You know, I'm looking at rolling 6 dice at this stage because of having the gang up and the shilling out aura. So I'm going to go for a bonus time shot on goal and score it straight down the middle between his 2 models. So that is 12-2 in favour of the Union. So that was my first game on Veteran Captain Greede into Butchers. We do re-rack and play another game, which is my next video that will be edited over the next week, and that is Veteran Captain Greede on the kick. I just want to say a big thanks to Mike. He's one of the Mid-Kent Guild Ball guys, so it's him, Wayne and Kev. So I just wanted to say a big thanks and shout out to Mike again for coming on the channel and playing a game against me and being willing to play against sort of the new hotness Veteran Captain Greede. I think definitely we sort of looked at the game afterwards and went, you know what, there were a couple of choices that I think either or both of us made that swung the game. You know, there was, I think if he'd gone with a model that wasn't Brisket in that second turn, you know, I get setting up Rage. I totally understand not setting up Captain Greede to die. Like, I totally get that, and I understand trying to stack those odds in your favour. But that's what allowed me to kill Boiler. And I think stopping Veteran Greede charging someone is a big thing. I think you need to treat him like a Furious model in that his playbook, if he's rolling a standard playbook, and I've had this discussion with some of my locals, if he's rolling just his standard tac 6, so his 5 plus his shelling out aura, his playbook is not the greatest. If you've got your standard 4-1 model, he's probably going to hit column 2, maybe, on his attacks, which as I'll flash the card up so you can see, but you know, that column 2 isn't, it's going to knock someone down, yes. He needs setup to shine, and he really needs a charge to get the most out of it. But actually a lot of his charge, unless you wrap quite high, I say high, unless you wrap to at least column 3, you're unlikely to be choosing anything other than non-momentous results, just to get the trigger things off that you want, like a knockdown, to set them up for your follow-up attacks. I think if you put a 4-1 model in cover against Greede, he's going to struggle to do a lot to them. Yes, he might wrap to the top end of his playbook, and he has got pushes, so he can pull you out of the cover, but then he's either expending resources on a character play, or he is using the pushes off his playbook to get you out of the cover. So I think he's definitely really interesting. He is the king of threat range, though, with Grace, especially when you've got really fast models in Union, you know, and that second activation. I think, for me personally, and you'll have seen me on the channel previously, and I have said that Blackheart, I like the idea behind Blackheart, but I can never get him to work. You know, his knockdown or his tackle are too low. I legitimately feel that Greede and Rage are my pairing for Union in events. Obviously, that cuts out bringing Greede and Avarice as a model option, but I think pretty much every other model in Union is viable with that pairing of captains. I think you might, whether or not you bring Mist and Snakeskin may depend a lot on your meta. I'll be honest, because Grace can score just as well as Mist. However, she sometimes lacks the ball retrieval aspect that Mist has, purely from that 2-inch melee. That said, I feel that she's just such a core piece to the way I play Union. She's got some really good abilities in her that just combine. You know, she can score goals, she can support with healing, she can support with speeding up models and increasing threat range. You know, I struggle to drop her from a 6, but I think if you're receiving and your opponent is coming to you, so like, you know, if you're, for instance, in Veteran Rage, if you are receiving and your opponent is playing a team that has to come to you to tackle the ball, I don't think you need her so much. But a lot of the other times, she is such a gold model in Union right now. So I'll leave it at that, and I hope you come back and watch another video in the future. So the next video again will be Butchers versus Veteran Captain Greede. It will be Ox. There'll be a slight tweak of lineups, but tune in next week for that one. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next time.